let's talk about yesterday, shall we? Good afternoon, everybody. Russ on the West Ham Network. Hope you're well. Anton's done a couple of really good videos today and yesterday, and actually about Holly and listen to Alf and our West Ham Network WhatsApp group. Had time to sort of decompress, and I'm a bit messy. You can say I'm a bit messy because when I'm little insight about Rusty B's life. When I'm a bit frustrated with West Ham, I like to bake. So last year, but the Budden family got quite well because I was baking quite a fucking lot. And it does seem that there's going to be more baking coming this way. So I've just baked a nice batch of chocolate chip shortbread. And what I do is when I'm baking, I start thinking. And it gives me time to think. And I like to think I'm a reasonably sort of level-headed, rational. I don't tend to be a knee-jerky person. It's not my style. I'm not someone who is not emotive. That's the wrong word. But I like to try and seek reason, think why. Even if I don't necessarily agree with that decision, I like to sort of think, why has that happened? And yesterday, a number of decisions that were made, I could understand. I didn't agree with those decisions, but I understood these decisions. But there's a couple which even baffled me. Start with start with the lineup. I could understand sticking with the back four. Made sense. We played well against Forest. I still think that 3-0 scoreline flattered us and deceived maybe the game entirely in terms of Forest. If they had their shoot, and I said when I was talking to Alf after the game, if Forest had their shooting boots on properly, probably Nuno would still be in a job, to be honest. But also, it wouldn't have been that result. There was again straight after half time. Was it Chris Wood? I think literally headed it into Mads' hand like it was just a defender heading back pass where he could have easily scored, and they were really toothless up front, which was surprising. So I can see that, and obviously without, and I've been watching obviously I watch all the fan channels and stuff like that. There was criticism about starting 𝗥𝗘𝗏 as a striker. But I understood that as well. I could understand why. Füllkrug wasn't really fit. Wilson's still not really fit. And to me, and again, that's a criticism of the recruitment rather than in terms of the cards Potter had to play. We've done that before against Spurs. I think was it Big Sam played a false nine and we beat him and Ravel Morrison scored that goal. I'm pretty sure that's when he started his false nine. So I understand that, and I understood the decision. I could understand. Again, I don't agree with the decision, but I understood the decision to not start Magassa and Fernandes together, they've only had 2 training sessions together, against a Spurs side who are, a very, very good in the ball side. They are. Let's be honest. Their recruitment is very good. They've got a squad. I mean, they were bringing players off and bringing players on, and they had I was impressed with the squad they had. They've got some good players. They've got a lot of similar players, I think, but they've got some good players. They didn't play with striker either, recognised striker. So I don't agree with that sentiment entirely. Now, so I understood that. I thought maybe Souček would have played. I didn't expect Souček and JWP to both be playing, but they did. And again, I think I understood why JWP, that he is, clearly one of Potter's men in the fact that, when Moyes wanted to get points, he would play his generals. He'd play Souček and there's a level of trust there with JWP. I didn't agree with the decision, but I understood the decision. And I think when we came out of half time, I thought, 0-0, all right, let's push on. I think this year, same as last year, we seem to be a second half side. I don't know why. But again, as we sort of mentioned in the we were sluggish. We don't, and again, that's been no change for the last 3 years. We don't play well from the beginning of the second half, and then we sort of get into it. For me, we did the first bit well, and then there was a decision, right? Okay, well, let's second half, let's go for it. But we just sort of stayed the same. I was talking to Gary, and he was saying that the last half a dozen managers West Ham have had never seem to just go for it. When there's an opportunity, it might be as a reflection of just I don't know. Respect. I don't know. I don't even want to say respecting the point because I don't agree with that. But I thought Spurs were there for the taking. I really did. I thought we had it was a good 20-minute spell. The crowd were up for it. And then Spurs basically held on to the ball. And then that quietened down the crowd. And there's been some criticism about the crowd. But as I said all the time, it's my line, if I go to a comedy gig and the comedian's not funny, I ain't laughing. If the fans aren't entertained, they're not going to be hysterically chanting for 90 minutes. It ain't going to happen. It's a two-way process. I thought the crowd were up for it pre-match. Good bubbles, always a good bubbles, and the team responded. There was some nice play, and I remember I was sitting there and thinking, "This is good. This is good." And then Spurs just hung on the ball, and they had half a dozen, 10 corners in that first half. I haven't looked at the stats. And clearly, that's the cheat code to score against West Ham at the moment. Get these corners in and put them right on, Mads' head, Kilman's head. We've got some big players there. And again, things I don't necessarily understand. Why was Matheus Fernandes, why is he man marking Van der Vey, who's probably about half a foot taller than him, maybe? When you've got someone Max Kilman, who's probably the same height. I don't. That's what I don't understand. It didn't seem to be. If you're 6'3", why don't you go and get another one 6'3"? Matheus Fernandes would probably bet against someone like Taylor or someone like that. You know what I mean? So I don't get it. Don't get it. Those things I don't understand, and I couldn't work out. But that's always been the case for some reason. We don't seem to mark the right people. So there's that. And they do this jumpy thing at the moment. It's really annoying me. Like they're all jumping at the moment like this. And I don't get it. Because they're mistiming their jumps because they're like this. And then if they're going down, they're meant to be jumping up. Then, yeah. Anyway, move on, Russ. Second half, again, sluggish. As I said, I think Mads, we've spoken to Leicester fans and stuff about him. Great shot stopper. Does tend to get lobbed, because he is a couple of inches shorter than the average goalkeeper. Jimmy Walker was a short goalkeeper as well. Doesn't mean you're a bad goalkeeper. It just means you're a short goalkeeper, and actually it means maybe you stay on your line a bit more. You don't come out as much because, so understand that. And actually it was a good couple of shots he saved, one in the first half and a double save. A bit fortunate with the second double save, but a good first save. And then he was just there and Johnson should have done better, to be honest. And you look at some of these things. So, the red card, clearly the red card made, even going 1-0 down, we saw a reaction and the crowd was reacting to that. And Bowen could have scored easily. 𝗥𝗘𝗗 should have scored better. He should have laid it off to Somerville in the first half. He would have probably banged that in. These sort of fine margins where 4 years ago, they were going our way and they're not going our way. And then it's just piling up the pressure. And then the decision of the red card, straight red, no, professional foul. And again, it was poor from Souček. I don't get why he gets clapped when people do that. That was a poor decision by Souček. He was too slow to reach, and poor decision, and he got clapped off. I never agree with that personally. If it was a contentious one, and yeah, but you could see Paulinho's like the front of his leg was well, not his leg, but where you could the sock was ripped and the shin pad was the top bit was shrink, so it was a nasty one. But again, maybe Souček shouldn't have been on the pitch then. 𝗥𝗏𝗧 should have been on the pitch. And I saw more with 𝗥𝗏𝗧's little cameo, that sort of 20 minutes, than I probably saw from JWP and Souček all that half. And actually the whole game, to be honest. And then the decision, these ones I don't understand. Now, Somerville, I understood. He's only just come back, and actually it was a straight-ish swap for Guilherme. Somerville is probably going to drag us out of relegation, I think, if anyone. Get that. Then, so I've made notes. Then the decision to take off Matheus for 𝗥𝗏𝗧. That's the one I didn't understand. His post-match press conference, he suggested that, you get to a decision where, you don't want to keep being opened up, which again shows me a risk-adverse manager rather than a risk-taking manager. We've got a situation where he didn't want to be opened up anymore. So, and I think Matt in our group chats, and maybe because of the way maybe he didn't trust sort of Fernandes more on that wing because he had to cover that side. It would have been a perfect opportunity to give Matheus Fernandes and 𝗥𝗏𝗧 20 minutes Premier League football just to start working each other out in an actual game, not on the training ground, but in an actual game. The fact was that game was probably lost as soon as that red card in. The way our side is in terms of confidence, in terms of leadership on the pitch and off the pitch as well, we'd lost the game. I thought that was it. So why don't you start putting some positives in time for the Crystal Palace game? That's what I would have done. And that's what I didn't understand. That's the one I couldn't think of rhyme or reason. Matheus Fernandes has a fantastic international break. He's not tired. He has been brilliant. He's just been, made the Portuguese under-21 captain. He's had a couple of really good games. He's buzzing. You know what I mean? And then to have JWP still on the pitch at 90 minutes, that's what I didn't understand. You sort of, what's the word? You sacrificed Matheus Fernandes to keep JWP on. Why? And again, I think I can understand that. I think again, I don't agree with it, but I can understand it in that he's one of his lieutenants. And actually, when you're 10 men against a good Tottenham side, and you're losing, having some experience that's the only reason I can think of why he was still on the pitch, because he offered nothing. Now, from my perspective, that red card is to Souček is, for me, because that's a straight red. So that's 3 games out. The next 3 games, for me, dictate what happens with Potter the rest of the season. Because you are now being presented, he's been presented with an opportunity to play Fernandes and 𝗥𝗏𝗧 together. We've spent 60 million on them two. For the next 3 games, play them. Souček was on the bench, has been on the bench, towards the end of last season. And, that's your, this is make or break. This is make or break for you. It has to be. Because, the next 3 games, if we lose the next 3 games, we would be really far adrift. And you're starting to get into the same territory of when we started to look at the real noise came out with Lopetegui leaving. It was around that time, October, November time. Everyone thought it might be in the October international break, but it wasn't, and it stayed. And then it went into obviously the sort of the beginning of the new year, in essence, or the end of the calendar year. Now he might decide, and as Matt said in our group WhatsApp chat, I'm quoting him, he might bottle it and continue with JWP. And if he has, there's no excuse. There's no excuses there. In some ways, this red card for Souček has done us a massive favour because it's going to make or break Potter. And I think that's key. It's going to make or break him. Because I genuinely believe that there's there's obviously people who don't like Potter. There's people who are on the fence with Potter. There's people who maybe want to keep Potter. Regardless, across all those groups, you want the managers to do well, because the managers does well, then West Ham do well. And that's always been my case. I've always wanted the managers to do well, because vis-a-vis it means West Ham are doing well, and I'm happy, I bake less, and they put on so much weight. It's a cyclical thing. But the trouble is, we're going to get to a point soon where if the decision is made to get rid of Potter, then the person who comes in is probably going to be a firefighter. And then we're in the same cycle with we had with David Moyes. Sheffield United are in it with Chris Wilder. Back to his ex. He might beat you up, but you'll come crawling back to him. And we're in a situation now where this keeps going and going and going. I thought we'd broken the sort of the cycle a little bit when Potter came in, because for me, he wasn't a firefighter. He was going to come in and make, set up shop and and but something's not working, something's not clicking. And it's the same type of conversation that people are having last year as well with Lopetegui. It was around this time that, was Forest a blip? Was Forest a blip? Was it a little, and then it's gone back to type? I don't know. But it's fascinating to see. It's fascinating to find out what happens next game. The fact is, we do have a game next week. So we haven't got an international break to mull over, to stew. It is a case of dusting ourselves and going again. And it is, that's the Premier League. We've got Crystal Palace and Everton. Next two games are crucial. We need to be picking up points. We need to pick up maximum points, because that gap's going to go wider. The likes of Leeds, these type of teams, they're picking up points as well. We might be joined by Forest in this relegation battle. They lost quite heavily against Arsenal yesterday. And with the way Ange plays, if you're not set up correctly, then it don't work out. We might even have Núñez in the dugout at West Ham. Who knows in the next, who knows? But I think, in summary, this red card, in a sort of serendipitous way, in a sort of sliding doors moment, I'd have preferred it was red card for 𝗕𝗥𝗚, because I think that would have been a real, what's he going to do? This red card is going to make him break him. Let me know the thoughts in your comments below. I'm going to go and probably bake some scones. Anyway, if you're new around here and you enjoy what we do, please don't forget to like, comment, share. We are literally paper thin. What are we on now? We are over 28,000 subscribers, literally on 4. So that's good. Hopefully that stays like that. Congrats. Thank you very much. We're on the road to 30,000 subscribers. So if you could help us out, that'd be fantastic. Don't forget to like, comment, share. Even if you've got nothing to say, you don't realize how much a little emoji or a thumbs up helps the channel out. Not just our channel, as I said, all West Ham content out there. They've got a lot of the guys do it out of the goodness of their hearts, make fuck all money from it, but because we enjoy talking about West Ham. So a little like here, a little comment, little share always helps. If you look down there and you see a subscribe and it's red, it means you're not subscribed. You see on the little icon, if you click it and it goes great, then you're subscribed. And spread the word. Met a lot of lovely people yesterday at the game. Afterwards, just walking around, saying hello and stuff. So thank you for going over saying hello. And yeah, hope. And it really annoys me how a Saturday game really fucks up the rest of my weekend. Anyway, much love. Bye-bye.